From frontline workers to leading from the front, women have played a key role in defeating the global pandemic. But in many parts of the world, much of the progress made on gender equality, from women's safety to education to opportunities at work, has been rolled back. In the workplace, last year alone, women lost $800 billion a year in income. That's according to Oxfam International. And that is more than the combined GDP of 98 countries. Fixing the problem isn't just for governments. The UN's Under-Secretary General saying, quote, "These challenges cannot be solved by governments alone, but through meaningful and substantive collaborations with the private sector, civil societies, and committed individuals." Well, I came to see one such collaboration. You've put women at the very heart of this entire project. In fact, the Women's Pavilion at Expo 2020 in Dubai, which aims to highlight the role of women in societies, both now and historically.
As you go through, you'll see testimonies of the greatest women in history.
The driving force behind the mega event is the UAE's Minister of State for International Cooperation. And with just over 3 months before its scheduled launch, I sat down with Reem Al-Hashmi and the Women's Pavilion partner, the CEO of the luxury brand Carttier, Cyril Vigneron. Expo 2020 will be the first World Expo since the 1900s to have a standalone pavilion dedicated to women. What was the thinking behind this, and what are you hoping to achieve, Reem?
For us here in the United Arab Emirates, it was very difficult to conceive of a global platform such as this that has country participation from all around the world, that has participation from civil society and academia and corporates, and not have a pavilion dedicated to pay homage and respect and tribute to the critical role that women have played in society. So from our standpoint, we wanted to shed a light on this, bring more attention to the opportunities and the challenges that exist, and really showcase what happens to a community, what happens to humanity when women are front and center.
Let's talk about this collaboration. Why was it so important, Cyril, for Cartier as a brand to take on this project? Explain, if you will.
First of all, we're not here as a brand, we are here as a corporate citizen. We have nothing to sell, but a lot to share. Because for 15 years, through Cartier Women's Initiative, we've been working with educations, but also with social entrepreneurs, and met fantastic women who want to change the world and actually do it. Through Cartier Philanthropy, we also have been involved with the most vulnerable, and there are a lot of women involved in trying to take action to support the most vulnerable around the planet, either in Africa or in Asia, but as we saw with the pandemic, basically everywhere in the world.
The challenges that women face will be even more acute in the light of this pandemic. The UN Secretary General has said, and I quote, "Limited gains in gender equality and women's rights made over the decades are in danger of being rolled back due to the COVID-19 pandemic." The UN estimates that COVID-19 will push 47 million women and girls into extreme poverty by the end of 2021. Reem, what do you believe needs to be done now to incentivize governments around the world to put women at the heart of these economic recovery policies?
So when I look at what we're doing at Expo, but also by extension what we're doing in the United Arab Emirates, as you know, we recently won our seat for the UN Security Council non-permanent membership, and women, peace and security is a core tenet of our work there. But when I marry that with the Sustainable Development Goals of 2030. The last SDG, SDG 17, is untraditional partnerships. We need to start being a lot more creative about a multi-stakeholder model that includes companies, governments, that really uses technology as an enabler so that we can not only identify those that are most vulnerable, but actually have an action plan around pulling them out of that vulnerability. It really is about inspiring agency in everyone. And this is really the premise of this expo, that it's not about a government decision maker or the CEO of a top-notch company. All of us can participate in elevating the planet and helping it, in bringing back dignity to people across all communities. And I think that sense of awareness is also very empowering. I can do something about it, not because I'm a minister, but because I'm an informed citizen. There's a lot more power to that than what initially meets the eye.
I think everyone has a role to play, and in this case, private companies have a bigger role than they think they do. So that's why we want to be also in this cooperation with Dubai 2020 to be an example, to be some kind of avant-garde, saying private and public have to cooperate in goodwill to change for a better world and to avoid this lost decade, as we can see the pandemic might be.
Reem, one of the pavilion's core aims is to drive tangible, collaborative action on gender equity. How are you hoping to achieve that?
I speak sort of from my own personal experience as a minister in international cooperation, and in all of my travels, whether it's in sub-Saharan Africa or Washington, D.C. or Bangladesh, wherever it is that that my work may take me, it's always very clear when there's a female perspective, when there's an inclusive approach to a particular end product / end outcome, and when there isn't. I think that our pavilion really speaks to that. It ends with a call to action that sort of underscores why it is important to have that equitable, just, and fully encompassing society where everybody has a rightful footing and a rightful place.
The Women's Pavilion is about highlighting the crucial roles that women play in different communities around the world. And there will be a Women in Arabia and Islam series that is featured in the pavilion. Just how important is that to you, Reem?
So important, Becky. I think that we deserve to tell our story in our own voice. There are many moments and opportunities across our history of strong female leadership that has transformed society, and this is a tribute to that. It's also a recognition that the future can only be prosperous if women continue to play a strong and pivotal role in society. And here, really, I think our audience includes boys and includes men, because they are an important partner to complement the great work that many women do in society as well. I think that as you look at the UAE's journey, as you look at the Middle East and larger Muslim societies, there are very stark differences, but there are very common similarities between the plight of women, the challenges of women across millennia and across time. And I think here, what this pavilion is really geared around is to shed light on that and to land at the very end on a recognition that if you truly do want to see prosperity, then an equitable, fully inclusive society has to come into play.
Cyril, if there were one thing that you hope people will take away from this, it's what?
I have something to do. Each and every one would say, I understand what it's about. And it's not something, say, women against men. It's not something men against women. It's not a trade war. It's something under the common goal to achieve together. And each and every one say, I've learned something, and there is something I have to do. Both women and men.
We're definitely all in this together, and only when we are together, banded together, will we be able to actually make a difference and nudge towards progress